Orlando.
You saw CNC Music Factory?
When you said you're all ready for this, isn't that
Yeah.
CNC Music Factory?
I think so. I know it was
Yeah,
like the
grad
opening of
night in Orlando.
I know it was the opening of every high school cheer dance routine from 1995 to 2001, I think. Well, good morning,
All right,
Johnny.
we are live. Let's go.
Where do we want to start? We want to start with apologies. We want to start with a food truck. I don't know where we're going with this yet.
Let's save the food truck. Let's hear about Dave's experience.
Yeah, what happened, dude?
Oh, man. Long story short, we had a new client that my therapist just forgot to go to as a new evaluation. Therapist has been asking for more orthopedic evals. It happened to be an orthopedic eval instead of all the neuro, gait, balance, older folks. Client texted the therapist and I in a group chat 15 minutes, 7:45 p.m., whatever, after 15 minutes after the time of the scheduled visit, asking if the therapist is still coming. And I'm looking at my phone, like waiting for my therapist to answer, or I wait like a minute. I call him. He's like, "Yeah, I just called her. I'm sorry. Like, I just totally forgot." So many learnings here. There was even an Alex Hormozy video or podcast in the past year or so that like actually helped prepare me for this, which is kind of like, because as you guys can imagine, sometimes I let the emotions fly. So I was quite irritated and frustrated. And anyone that's watching or listening, like some people might be like, these things happen in business. And I get it. Some things like this happen in restaurants or they happen in other businesses, but they don't happen in my business. But it did, right? And so I immediately knew, like, okay, there's two things, right? As we'll dig into this. One is, how do we potentially salvage this interaction, if that's even possible? And then that's what we'll go into the apology and the flowers and all that I delivered. That's one. And then that's the short-term thing. And then the longer-term thing is like, how do we prevent this from ever happening again? I shared this with my business coach, Serdy McKee. I send him the whole update of everything. And he kind of said the same thing of like, how do we prevent this? How do you prevent this from happening again in terms of systems and operations and all that? So yeah, that's kind of the intro to it.
I want to hear the solution to the second part, because I think this is what goes under recognized so often. Everything in my business is about how do I prevent this from happening again? And I don't think we emphasize the importance of that enough. And so I'm so happy you said that, because that was the first thing I was thinking. I was like, yeah, this stuff happens. It's always going to happen. The question is, how do we prevent it from happening again? We don't have denials, because once it happens once, it should never happen again. So let's start there, and then we'll talk about what you did to salvage or turn this into a positive outcome. How are you going to prevent this from happening again?
Yes. So one thing is, like, as you guys all know, and Jimmy knows with the Thales, and Tony knows from different EMRs and all that, like, patients get, typically like an email or a notification when they have an evaluation or the first visit or any visit for that matter. In our system, they get like a paperwork email. They get like a notification just when we book the evaluation. So this past Saturday. So this past Saturday, when they booked the evaluation, the client gets booked on the calendar for Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. And they immediately get an automated email just from that step. But then it's like, okay, then Sunday goes by, Monday goes by, all Tuesday goes by, and the therapist is not getting any notification, because most of the EMRs, they're sending email or text notifications to the patient or client, but not the therapist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still dealing with the camera here.
That's all right. Keep playing with it. I've got a quick question. What is your process for putting that new patient into your EMR? Who did it? What's that look like?
Now the therapists do it. So he did not do it. It doesn't, even if he had done it, he still could have no-showed it, because there's no notifications, there's no text or emails being sent to the therapist. So yesterday, as I'm texting Sturdy and I'm like, what are the things that I need to be doing? Like in the beginning, I might need to be doing 5-minute phone calls with every therapist and be like, hey, who did you see today? And who do you have tomorrow? And I know it infuriates me to even have to consider that, because I'm like, I'm paying these therapists $111 a visit, basically a Medicare 4-visit unit. They're being paid like basically like an owner in any other state. And so being paid well, but I still have to spoon feed them. That's the infuriating part to even consider. I know I'm in the stage of like, still some of the emotions are flying, but I'm also trying to get solutions figured out. But yeah, it might have to be, I have to call a therapist every night before a new evaluation or the morning of, or send a text to the therapist and the client. Hey, just double clicking here, just double checking, making sure everyone's, just putting this, running this past everyone's dashboard real quick, just making sure we're on the same page here, and over communicate. Like, we already over communicate a lot. And so, as we talk today, maybe you guys will help me also get a little bit more clarity and a little other, angle on steps or solutions and other things that we can do to make sure this never happens again, because this has never happened before. And let me take a step back. Here's the worst part about it. The worst part about it is the patient reached out to us and said that they had already tried another concierge practice, meaning home visits. And I had to dig in more. She said, "Oh, we tried this other place and we booked it. I booked a couple times. Each time I got booked, then they late canceled. I would book, they would late cancel." It happened to be Luna, but Luna's big. They're great, but it happened to be with Luna. And so I'm texting her back, the patient, and I'm reassuring her like, "Oh, well, we're concierge. Like, they're having challenges. They kind of hire any therapist." Like, I'm throwing Luna under the bus. I'm acting all big and tough, and that we're better and we're a little bit more hands on. And then we drop the ball. We do the exact same thing. So of course this client was infuriated. Of course I was really upset and embarrassed and frustrated with my therapist, and the fact that I got to field this call. So that made it even worse. The fact that she had already just had this experience somewhere else, and then we completely dropped the ball. We did the exact same thing as a gigantic company that has, all this other support and all this other stuff going with it. So that makes it even worse.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, stuff like this happens. What are you going to do with it? This is in every industry. The goal is to make sure it happens again. I would make it as automated as possible, because this person is going to be really sensitive to the fact that this happened for the next couple of weeks. And then then he's going to get comfortable again, and it might happen again. So there needs to be like safeguards, right? We talk about airline pilots a lot and checklists. You want these as automated as possible. And it's 2025. Like, we have to be able to do that. So I would say this is a learning moment. You also responded well. I think we haven't even talked about that. Like, what did you do with the human element of that? Use this as a learning moment for the therapist, but then put a system in place that says you're accountable, but this system is going to help you. And if you ignore those warning signs, if you don't take the checklist, then it's on you again. But like, people missing stuff, human nature. The second time it happens, pattern, not good.
No, just real quick before we go to what you did, I'm asking, but like, it's not reasonable that you would then initiate this whole crazy system to having this conversation with every therapist after every day to summarize what you've been doing. Like, that just puts way too much stuff on your plate for what sounds like a one-off event. Like, it doesn't sound like this is happening weekly or monthly or anything like that. So as much as I understand the frustration around it, it's such a rare occurrence that absolutely it doesn't warrant you penalizing yourself with contributing more time to this kind of hands-on oversight. I agree with Jimmy in the automation. Like, we had a situation just I think Monday or Tuesday this week where, a patient calls to cancel a new evaluation. Well, the patient wasn't on the schedule for a new evaluation. Guess who took the call? Me. And I'm like, yeah, just come in Monday afternoon. We're here anytime between, 2 and 5. We'll see you. Well, I didn't put the patient into the system. I didn't even do a sticky it post-it note, with the patient's name. Nothing. There was no evidence, and I had completely forgotten that I told this person to come in. Thankfully, the person called to cancel, but then we're like, well, who is this person? We don't have anything about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember taking that call. So we have deficiencies in the system. And the same thing, it's like I'm the weak point. I still haven't figured out the right solution because this happens more than I would like to admit, where it's just so dang complicated to why can't a person just call and be like magically show up on the schedule? I have to log in and I have to wait for the website to load and I have to pull up the patient's account and I have to put them into the way too complicated. But this is the world we live in. So these are the challenges day-to-day businesses are dealing with. And then I have to be like, well, what? Am I going to hire somebody for $50,000 a year just to answer the phone and get people on the schedule? That makes no sense.
Nope.
I would rather deal with the quote breakage, have these little cracks in the system because the system is still running okay.
Right.
But okay, so now let's talk about what the resolution was.
Yeah, what'd you do? How did you solve the human element?
Well, first I called the patient as soon as it happened, and my therapist had said that they had just called the patient as well. Uh, the patient was not irate, but pretty upset, like pretty offended, pretty upset. They're trying to, they said that they've called, obviously they've tried this a couple different places, and no matter what they do, they're trying to work on their situation, overcome their situation. No matter what they do, they're getting roadblocks. They're not, they're not getting what they deserve. And I totally 100% agree with all that. One thing in terms of now, I didn't need the Alex Hormozy podcast to do all this, but the one thing that he had said is when this happens, in Alex Hormozy's example, and I'll get to what I did with the flowers and the letter. They had flown some customers to their Las Vegas headquarters, and the other half of the team of acquisition.com, whatever, they didn't know it was happening. So a bunch of these people come from other states, maybe other countries. They fly in and nothing was prepared for them. There was no workshop. There was nothing scheduled, whatever. So the business owner, his suggestion, and for me it's very easy, that his suggestion is that the business owner has to be more upset than the actual customer who was wronged. Now, in my example, that was very easy. It was very easy because, like I said, this is such not just rare. This literally never happens, ever. Never happened before. And so I showed that tonality, that emotion on the phone, and I was very, very honest about how I was feeling, how upset I was about it. But that was just Tuesday night. This was 7:45, 8 p.m. on Tuesday night. And then I call my therapist back and I say, hey, I'm going to send them, and I think you should send them a selfie video talking into the phone, apologizing so that they can see you. They can kind of see your body language and if we're actually serious or not. The therapist said the client really upset. We should probably not do anything tonight. I'm like, okay, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow, which was Wednesday, which was yesterday. And I still don't know if my therapist has sent a video, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to drop off a ridiculously, a pretty large, expensive or whatever, a good amount of money spent on a flower arrangement, a mixed bouquet, and a long handwritten apology on pen and paper, and deliver that. And so I did that. I was able to get inside her building. We drove over there. It was way out of the way, but had to do it anyway. Went into the building, called her. She's at work. She answers the phone. Luckily, the nanny was there. So the nanny answered the door, and I put the client on speakerphone, and the nanny took the flowers and the letter. Then the client texted me back last night after 8 p.m. that she just got home, and she was very thankful. She was very grateful, saying thank you for that I went out of my way and all that type of stuff. And she was grateful. And in the letter I wrote, do you want me to read it, or is it too long? I mean, I basically said, like, I said we're sorry and we're embarrassed, and typically we pride ourselves on concierge services, but obviously we didn't do that at all. We completely let you down. This is not how we operate. And I asked, like, if you could possibly consider giving us a second chance. I promise we will never let you down again. And she said, you know, she's going to take some time, maybe take some days, weeks, whatever. Like, she doesn't want to take any action moving forward, but she'll reach out soon or whatever. So maybe she will, maybe she won't. But it's just such a challenge. Like, this whole thing is just like a challenge for her, because she's probably feeling like the whole healthcare system is letting her down, and like now we're part of that. Like, it's very big. But even monetarily, like, this is just like, this person deserves our service. Like, they found our service, they had a bad experience somewhere else, and 10 times out of 10, like, we're able to flip someone. They start with us and they want to stay with us forever. We let this person down. We're kind of going into the whole challenge of healthcare for a lot of folks. We're kind of have fed into that in a negative way. We've been a part of that. So hopefully she reconsiders, and that's kind of where we're at. But now I still have to. I'm speaking with Sturdy, my business coach, today. Still need to speak to the therapist in person, or game plan type stuff. Yeah, there's the flowers. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, and it just I'm so bummed. Like, it's just so bad. And here, really quick, I know some people might watch this and listen. They might say, like, well, Dave, your therapist, they're trying the best they can. Or my therapist might even be thinking, I'm trying the best I can. And here's the thing. Sometimes your best is not good enough. And so, like, there's other companies where this is okay. This is all right. Like, it happens quarterly, and Tony's pointing to himself. Maybe it happens monthly. And guess what? We're not that type of company.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge. That's the challenge is
But you are, because it happened. How you respond now is what kind of company you really are, in my opinion, right? So, like, a couple lines, right? Don't do your best, do my best. I need you to be on my level, right? That's a great quote from
I
Adam
like that.
Carolla.
I like that. I've never heard that. I love that.
Do my best. Except, like, stuff does happen. I need what I think the biggest problem here, or the biggest failure, would be if this therapist, and I don't think we should say their name, because I don't think it's
no
that would help. It's not going to help. We've all done this, right? The biggest failure is if this therapist, if it doesn't bother them. That's, in my opinion, that is the number one. You drive all the way to the patient's house and you give them flowers and you give them a handwritten note and you say, I'm sorry. The 3 parts of an apology. I'm sorry. I understand that how this hurt you. This will not happen again. And you mean all 3 of them. And then you follow through on all 3 of them. And driving there with flowers says, it doesn't guarantee you anything, but it shows versus tells better than I'm very sorry. We hold our people to the highest standards, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. If this person isn't bothered, because this is a moment where this client could have been worth $5,000 and they could have referred you other business. But this therapist, if they continue, could be worth 10x that, right? Or negative 10x that. So you put it, hey, listen, teaching moment. I know this, I've told people all the time when I screw up at companies, and I will screw up at companies more. I will, even though I try really hard and I don't want to. And you have that pit of your stomach, right? How do we respond to this? And how do we set up systems so it doesn't? It's not to say the system will now take care of it. People run processes. Processes run businesses. I thought this was the dumbest saying ever when I heard it. And then I realized I would not have a life or show up on time to this live stream if I did not have a recurring Google Calendar invite that reminds me 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes before. Jimmy, it's every Tuesday and Thursday. I don't know if you know how sleep works. When I go to sleep and wake up, I'm like an Etch-a-Sketch, baby. Turn it over and shake. Blank slate. What day is it? I don't know. That's how some people that they operate. No, it's every Tuesday. Can't you get in that pattern? No, my operating system doesn't work that way. So I found a way to hack it. Google Calendar. I can't. And if I screw up, it's because Google Calendar got so normal for me that I can ignore, because I have 75 Google Calendar invites now. Okay, that worked for a while. Change it. So I think a system and a person is the solution.
If I'm cutting in and out, just let me know. I can switch computers. The thing I think what's so powerful here too is it speaks to the culture, and I point to myself because this is a good example of why I am not in Dave's business. It's not in my nature. It's not in our culture to like be as passionate. Now, there have been things that have happened in my business that I'm just as passionate about as Dave is. But something like this, I don't want the pressure. I just don't. Like, so he makes the big money for delivering the experience, not so much just because of the knowledge and expertise, but because he has so much passion behind that. If this happened to me, yes, I would be frustrated. I would be upset, but I would also be like, it happens, let's try to prevent it. Let's try to stop it from happening. But I wouldn't have that visceral response that Dave has. And it's just, it's awesome. Like, I love it, but it is a good example of I go where my strengths are. He goes where his strengths are. I don't want to be in that world. I don't want somebody who is so like intent on this is the experience I want. I'm willing to pay for it. This is what we're going to do. And I don't want that pressure on me. So you have to understand yourself a little bit. We're just here to have a good time. We're going to move a little. We're going to relax. We're going to tell some jokes, and like, that's the culture. That's the experience. And I want people who do well in that environment. But that's awesome. I mean, I can't applaud you enough for what you did.
When you just said the word intent, Tony, I thought you were going to say intense. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm intense.
I think this also highlights like how important self-awareness is. Like, I remember being in school, in the journalism school, knowing I wanted to do communications. And then we were going over the 3 different organizations on campus: the school newspaper, the school TV station, and the school radio station. And just being like, I don't understand why everybody in the room doesn't think that radio is absolutely miles ahead. I'm like, it just shows you that like what one man's trash is another man's treasure, and vice versa. But being self-aware is huge, because you'll think you're like, if Tony was living in New York trying to do this, he's like, I'm a physical therapist. This is how I need to or have to deliver care. And you'd hate every minute. But put Tony in a brick and mortar situation, and he's like, different situation. You have to be self-aware. Like, and I'm saying this because this live stream and this podcast is typically a real therapy session for me, which is like, what do you like about that? Because it's not obvious. It's not universal.
Well, even my wife, like, I love that she said this years ago. We would have an employee, a staff therapist, an administrative person, whatever, and they would get upset because there are certain things that I'm not good at, right? We were just talking about this the other day. So I had a box of soap. We ran out of soap in the clinic. My wife, within an hour, got the soap delivered, but then it sat in the back of my car for 3 days.
Yeah.
And because I knew it was there, I just didn't get around to getting it, right? But you take the good with the bad. So the bad is, okay, Tony's unreliable. Yeah. Tony's not going to like act immediately. Tony's going to procrastinate and let things sit on the back burner. On the flip side, when something goes wrong, Tony's pretty chill. Like, he's going to approach this in a calm, cool, collective way. He's not going to jump to any whatever rash decisions, and we're going to get this taken care of. So you take the good and the bad. Dave's intensity is what pushes the success. That's the good. But then you're also going to have an expectation on yourself to exceed Dave's professionalism. And some people are going to take that as the bad. You can't have both. You can't have like a party culture and expect to perform on both ends.
And you're not going to be able to change Dave's personality or your personality or my personality.
You wouldn't want to. Yeah.
Right. Like, you put me in certain situations and I flounder, man. Like, I just do. And you put me in other situations and you're like, this guy was made for this. So this person, when you see someone in their right spot, you're like, that person is great. And I'm like, that person is in a great position, right? That whole ask a fish to climb a tree and he'll think it's stupid its whole life. Put a fish in the water to swim, baby, swim. Like, yeah, like I know you might want to be something, but if you're not it, like you have to, you gotta grow arms and legs somehow. And some people can do that. They can will themselves being in better situations. Now we might be getting off track a little bit, but I would say so going forward, how are you going to prevent this? Like, this person probably feels close to as bad as you do. Maybe not as bad because it's it's your baby, it's your business. But like going forward, like, what are we doing so 6 months from now? Because again, this person's going to have a scar and be very sensitive for the next couple of weeks, but then that's going to fade, and we don't want that. So what are you going to put in place? We're talking about technology.
Well, yeah. Well, 1 second before the technology, you mentioned the self-awareness, and as you guys were talking, I was thinking like, because it's a therapist that's been with me for over a year, because it's someone who I interviewed, hired, trained, onboarded, trained, coach, mentored, all that, right? When you're saying self-awareness, I'm feeling like this person knows me, they know the clients, they know everything. So I want them to own it. And I don't know if some of that is self-awareness. I don't know if that is some other component of what we're talking about, but I want them to own it, meaning like, I'm saying you should do a selfie video and send it to them. Like, I want therapists who say to me, I already sent them a selfie video that I already apologized and I was super embarrassed, and I wanted to send them the video so that they saw my still they hadn't met before. That was all text message, right? Even before the missed visit, right? So I want therapists to own it. I want them to step out, take the bullet. I want them to be like, I'm more upset than Dave is. I'm embarrassed more than Dave. Like, no one in the world is more embarrassed than me. Like, I am mortified. I couldn't even sleep last night. Can you please give me a second chance? Here's what we would do with your evaluation. I'm going to stop, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. Like, I'm going to stop by at this coffee place. Can I get you a coffee? I'm going to bring you coffee. I'll bring you a donut or croissant or something healthy. I'll bring you some fruit or smoothie or whatever, something stupid. I'm going to bring this, that, whatever. That's what I want. That's what I want. So that's another thing. Like, maybe that's some training stuff. Maybe that's, that's part of the culture stuff to identify, like, when these issues do happen, what's the protocol? What's the game plan around not just self-awareness, but like how should you act? And I want them to totally own it.
There's no way you shouldn't have to have a game plan around this, but two things should happen. They should understand how we respond. What I mean by that is, as a radio station, when Janet Jackson's boob popped out, we already knew we were doing something with this the next day, because we were a brash rock radio station. We didn't know what, but we were like, this is one of our moments, and we respond with humor, and we spin it, and we make it fun. In this, but I knew that came top down. That came from my boss. And it was expected of me to walk in the next day, Monday morning, after that happened with Timberlake and Janet Jackson. We're going to have an idea or three, be ready to do this. My example is, I always worked for guys that I wanted to work hard for, and they set the tone for what was expected. So the first time something bad happened, I walked in his office hat in hand, and the people that I worked for were like, you didn't do it on purpose. I know you're a reliable guy. This can't happen again. And going forward, how can we make this better? The second time it happened, because it will, I walked in and said, I already did that, because they set the tone. That was the boss's job. Boss's job is to find someone who can do your job better than you. Your job is to make sure they can't. So that was the tone it was set. Jimmy, I don't need to be the world's greatest. I need you to show up. And when you screw up, because you will, because I worked in a live radio environment. Therapists work in a live environment. I need you to make it better. Like the guy from Zappos. You have permission, if up to $1,000 to make this right. So if you said something bad happens, you have $250 to make it right. She said on her eval she loves Italian cookies. Great. I called Arthur Avenue, and she's got a thing of cookies. And even if she blows it off and never says it again, we at least diffused. We got back to almost zero. Do you know what I mean? But that's an expectation. That's Dave's job, in my opinion. Now, now in this situation, Dave said, here's what we did. We did this, and we wrote a note. I covered it. I know you didn't do this on purpose. I know you would jump in a DeLorean and drive 88 miles an hour to make that feeling in your stomach go away. I know that you would. I know you would. but I need you to own it going forward. Right? It's not like, well, this is one strike. That's a shitty way to say it. This is one strike, and we only allow 2 strikes here because we're better than baseball. I don't know.
Dude, you know me so well because I was thinking that last night.
It's how you.
Yeah, real quick, I agree with Jimmy in the sense that, and this comes from, being a dad. It's like, to me, my kid does something wrong, I'm not going to spank them. I'm going to, like, at some point, once you get over the rage, you sit down and you're like, all right, now what's the plan? What are you going to do to make sure this never happens again? It's not Dave's responsibility. It's you, the therapist. What's going to work for you? How are you going to do this? You're an adult. You're a big boy, big girl. You have to, this is a skill you need for life. Like, now you set the plan and you tell me, how are you going to prevent this?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Jimmy was asking about
Open-ended,
technology.
right? What should we do here?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm still in the early stages of how can we, and this might, maybe there's a part 2, but yeah, it's going to be some component of messaging. It's going to be some component of therapist, text or email or something through automated with the EMR. Again, if a new client gets booked for, today's Thursday, a new client gets booked for Monday, that client is getting, an email and text reminder, but the therapists don't, and most EMRs don't. So I need to look at, like, does my EMR even do that? Do I somehow, how do I sync in so that the therapist also gets notified? Those are the easy things, like text and email notifications. And then the thing I mentioned earlier of, like, doing, maybe just for the new client evals, like speaking with the therapist the night before or the day of or something. But there's got to be some combination of that. Again, this just happened less than 2 nights ago or whatever, so I'm still, like, maybe still emotional about it and probably can't fully clearly figure out the solutions yet, but working on it.
Yeah, this is simple, not easy, because this is personal to you, and it's personal to everybody in this situation. As much as I'm an emotional guy, you need to have a logical, a good emotional response. Write the crappy text message to your therapist about how he let you down, then delete it. Don't send it. It's not going to help, right? Hey, just by the way, water's on sale.
So I saw you share that. For people who can't see it, what is that? $14.95 six pack.
It's that 6-7 water, right? They were riding the wave of this social media saying. By the way, one of the Little League games ended. Final score 6-7, and the kids were losing their minds because it was a cultural moment, right? If you were the brand 6-7, what do? You send them buckets of water. You send them cans on cans on cans on cans, because that team, if they bring one in the dugout, like, your gold can. So 6-7 social media trend. You can look it up what it means. I still don't freaking understand. If you use ChatGPT, you get 6 or 7 different variations. Nobody knows because it's made up. But they're selling a 6-pack of water for $15, or you could pay over time. I guess you can finance a 6-pack of water. Now you're gonna have to ship this water, because my guess is it's not in retail outlets yet. Anyway, they're gonna come out net positive on this thing that they didn't own but they grabbed. How can you do that too? It doesn't have to be water, but how can you own a thing?
So let's contrast that with the photo I sent you that I took from my car yesterday. Okay. While you're pulling it up, I pull into Kroger, I go in, and I'm like, oh, I see this truck, what's going on? And then I see this big banner to the side of it, says free food.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, that's the thing, the free food. So I'm like, you've got this, and I think it's like almond milk and stuff like that, which we've talked about, the problems with naming something milk that isn't coming from a cow. But I'm like, there was nobody there. You logically would think, if it says free food, there'd be lines out the door. This was right at the time where, like, kids were getting out of school. There was a high school right behind this Kroger. Nobody cares. Nobody was there. Free is not a value proposition that most people care about. free tends to lead to a feeling of entitlement. Free tends to just screw everything up. If you want me to convey that this has no worth, I'm going to put a label that says free on it, you know? So this goes back to, you've got people paying hundreds, thousands of dollars for things that somebody else is giving away for free. And I think when we look at the healthcare system at large, and I think this is a huge problem, we've got patients that are receiving air quotes free to them healthcare. And it's not healthcare. It's our time. It's our lives. It's our look at Dave's passion. Like we're distributing this. I think if we wanted to change things positively, we need to figure out a way to get out of this entitlement idea that, you know, and I know we've never had this conversation, is healthcare, or more specifically, what we do as physical therapists, is it a right or a privilege? Who's paying the cost? What do we do in situations where it's completely wasted? I don't know. I don't have the answers. These are big social issues, but I do believe that there is a huge, you know, talk about.
Either Tony is doing a really great holding Phil still impression, or he's cut out. Or there was a conversation with that thread around. It was Sean in Active Life. He's giving away like a training course to strength and conditioning professionals and trainers, and someone jumped, screenshot it and put it in the comments, and essentially was like, who does this guy think he is, just giving away what we own and this knowledge of exercise? And but when I say it like that, doesn't it sound ridiculous? Doesn't that sound completely arrogant? Like, it sounds insane, right? That someone's like, who's this guy think he is? The word they used was like non-professional. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's a couple different definitions of professional. One is if you get paid to do something, poof, you're a professional. You're getting paid to do that. And he does that. So do we have this inferiority, superiority complex? This would be a good question. We're inferior in other places, right? We're screaming about beating on our chest, calling ourselves doctors. And then we have this that's an inferiority complex. And then we have a superiority complex where we're saying, who are you people with that? We do the exact same thing we're pissed off other people do to us, right? Looking down on.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. We also have some pictures. I snapped a couple shots while I get those up. This was at a rest stop in New York. New York has rebranded all their rest stops to be like Apple Greens or something like that. Have you seen these? Like on the Thruway?
I haven't. No.
All right. So like they're essentially trying to take ownership and really clean up these rest stops. And I was in there the other night. It was after a certain chain was closed. And this is what you have now. What you've got is you've got an organization that is essentially, it's an automated self-service coffee spot. And you see a little refrigerator there. That refrigerator is unlocked. It's got cups of ice. So you can do your ice, whatever, or you can do your hot coffee. You swipe a card, you dial in what you want. That machine probably costs $10,000 and it's just sitting there out in the open. There's some syrup to the left. So essentially it is a self-service coffee spot. It is, I don't know if you can see it, right? Super subtle. I was trying to be a good photographer. Right behind it is a Starbucks. So as you walk in the door from the rest stop to, go to your Chick-fil-A and hit the bathroom, you see this. And directly behind it, you see Starbucks. And this is what I want people to understand is like they're selling two different things. Like this is an example of they are selling. I did not try the coffee. It might be perfectly fine from this tap and go self-service station. And we know what Starbucks is. And real like coffee lovers, people who consider themselves coffee connoisseurs, will tell you Starbucks is trash. Oh my gosh, Dunkin' Donuts is the people have opinions. I know this shocks all of you. That's because Starbucks understands, and this tap and go place understands, they're not actually selling coffee. This place is selling convenience and speed.
Yep.
Starbucks is selling status and a feeling and belonging. No belonging
And
here. It doesn't even have a
I love
name, right? It's just Tap and
it
Go.
just has coffee. That's it. There's no company logo.
Tap
Tap and Go is the company.
Coffee. That's it. I don't even know. Directly to the right of this, there is a rack of just generic Walmart, like Pura Vida water bottles with the same thing. Just open, not a vending machine. Take two, swipe your card, honor system. Go for it. And it looks like it's the same company where they're just like, listen, it's going to cost us too much to put the vending machine up. Just put the water there. What if someone steals all of it? Yeah, it's $12. So they're saying our margin is so high. My guess is this is owned not by a company. It's probably done by whoever owns the rest stop. I don't know if that's the New York State Transit Authority, but it's a sub brand because now it's not a New York State rest stop. It's Apple Green. So it looks like it's like when ShopRite has their own brand.
I couldn't tell with the picture. Was Starbucks closed at the time that you took that picture?
Correct. This was about 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So there's only one option then at that point. So
there's only one option then, but why wouldn't Starbucks be open? Well, their overhead's too high, but that's almost okay. Like Starbucks is like, dude, we're not 3 a.m. We don't do that. We're not 3 a.m. We're 7 a.m. because that's when you're trying to be the best version of you. But we're not open 24 hours. It almost feels like Tony's free food, which is like, we ain't cheap, we ain't free, we're not discounting, we're not staying up late for you. And especially since COVID, many of these places are not open past 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They're just like, the juice wasn't worth the coffee.
But why wouldn't Starbucks have this? Like, okay, if you're going to close and put this out there so that anybody walking by can.
Correct. All Starbucks had to do was sell the status self-service. And by the way, I didn't take a close up, or I didn't upload the close up. The prices on this pretty much the same as Starbucks.
Wow.
There was a latte there was an iced latte for $5, like $5.50.
There's a direct correlation. All right, this is the layup. Let's say it's 10 a.m. It's 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. There's a line at Starbucks, and then this Tap and Go has no line at all, right? Now you're saying it's the same price, but typically I think the Tap and Go usually could be cheaper. Could be
right.
It could be faster, or it's less of a wait. And there's some people that wait in Starbucks line, and they always want that, or the Dunkin' Donuts, the whole thing. This is like, there could be parallels drawn with healthcare. Like now of course we want to be Starbucks. We want to be like the brand. We want to be like, all that, like, no, in terms of concierge release. Like we want people, but we want it to be the fast efficient. We want the fast efficient of the Tap and Go. We want the brand recognition of the line, the people that are at Starbucks waiting in line. But if it's 8, 9, 10 a.m. and there's more likely going to be a line at Starbucks than this Tap and Go, and someone that comes in to get coffee, if they don't care about the quality, if they just want a coffee, they're going to go to the Tap and Go. Especially if it's cheaper. Now, if it's the same price, some people are still going to just do the Tap and Go, because why wait in the line if they're busy? And there's certain people, there's certain consumers that just don't want to wait, or anytime there's a little friction or a little resistance, they want to go the path of least resistance. And we try to remove resistance with us, like no waiting list, or we'll call you back, or we'll speak with you the same day, or whatever. And we're not going to be like others that have like a 4 to 6 week waiting list. So it's just interesting, like, because of the time of day or the number of consumers at either of these, the Starbucks or the Tap and Go, there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between insurance-based physical therapy and the out-of-network or self-pay physical therapy.
There was a cookie place on West 74th, and Taylor Swift made it famous because she tweeted and said it was the greatest cookie in the world. This little itty bitty tiny cookie shop, Levain Bakery, then became a mega thing. It then opened a fancier outlet on Amsterdam Avenue, a bougier street, not a side street.
It's the same block, right?
It's a block and a half, around the corner. And they still make the cookies in the old place and then literally on a cart wheel them to the new place. I lived 6 doors down from Levain Bakery at the original place. Levain Bakery was smart enough, too. They would put somebody out there in an apron during tourist season to keep the line from getting ridiculous, because people who lived there were like, hey, man, I'm trying to do my laundry or go shopping, and yet a bunch of yahoos from Milwaukee and trying to get cookies, right? So they were smart enough to do crowd control. I was trying to be a nice guy. I'd see the line an hour long to get cookies, and I'd be like, there's a store. Look on your phone. There's a store block and a half away. Same cookie, 0 wait. 90% of the time, we're good. They wanted the experience. They wanted to walk into the place that Taylor walked in because she said, well, this is the original. I mean, half the people looked at me because they were skeptical, like, this New Yorker's lying to me. Can't be that easy, or there wouldn't be 73 other people. It was, they stayed, which is why I think even in a rush, people would measure juice versus squeeze. That's Starbucks. I know what I'm getting there. This tap and go, even though it's convenient, even though I might try it once and be fine, they're not doing it. Understand what problem, before you understand what problem you're solving, understand what problem do lots of people have, then what problem do you like solving? That's where you need to cross.
Or that you're good at solving. Yeah.
Or that you're good at solving. Right. Is it a real problem? It's not a coffee problem at that point. Because again, as you mentioned, when you stand here, I can solve coffee in 49 seconds or 15 minutes. Right. But what am I buying? I'm buying the cup, the knowledge, the feeling, the status. That's okay. Or am I buying just whatever comes out of this self-service machine? I'll take it and go. But what is the parallel to physical therapy? Do we just try to sell coffee? Is that the thing? We're physical therapy and we're evidence-based. And we're one-on-one.
If you want the bare bones coffee that's cheaper and efficient, and go get the tap and go. If you want an experience where most of the time the therapists show up to you, then you go with the brand, baby. You go with Starbucks, you go with Concierge Pain Relief. But most of the time we're going to show up.
This was the conversation I was having with ChatGPT on the way into the office today. I was like, let's talk about some of these conflicts, this misalignment. There are therapists, who want to build independence in their patient. I remember this from years ago. One therapist would say, oh my gosh, he's such a terrible therapist. Look, he's ignoring his patient. The other therapist says, my job is to build independence. If I tell you every single thing to do every minute of the day and I'm helicoptering over you, you are never going to be independent. So we have this conflict here where if I am being paid by the insurance company to improve function, why am I rubbing your back? If I'm being paid by the insurance company to get you back to functional activity independently, why am I sitting here telling you every little thing that you're doing wrong? It doesn't matter. You want to get out of a chair. Let's get out of a chair 20 times. Let's do the thing. And so you've got a business owner, practice owner, who's incentivized to not make their patients worse, but definitely not make them better. We get paid based on volume. We get paid for delivering units. We want to find that sweet spot of make it fun, make it something you want to come to, but don't make it so that you get better. You've got the patient who they want what they want. I would argue very few of them want to actually achieve functional benefit. They just want to come have some fun. They want to feel good. They want somebody to be paid to listen to their stories. You've got the doctor, you've got the insurance company, you've got all of these different factions in play, and all of them have different objectives most of the time. Now, in Dave's model, you've got the closest to the purest relationship because the consumer can pay Dave to help him achieve his goal. And if his goal is, I'm going to pay you $300 to listen to my stories and laugh, that's what we're going to do, yep. And that's fine because that is what the consumer is paying us to do. But I talk to ChatGPT about this all the time. I'm like, help me understand how we can reconcile, how we can improve the alignment so that we're all moving toward the same objective. And who is the one determining what is the objective? Is it the patient? Is it the insurance company? Is it the therapist? But I love those conversations because they're just so interesting to me.
Well, I think they're also in the comments. Especially this, I don't think we have the comments section, the graphic for the comment section of this post. We can talk more about this next week when we come back. But this is Sean Patouche. I think I'm saying that right. And he does active life professional. I don't even know his background professionally. I just know him as a guy who he says smart stuff. So I follow him, right? And he's a friend of a friend. And he says there's no standard of education to become a coach. So he's here sharing his knowledge. And the comment section, this was a screenshot shared in a PT Facebook group. The comment section was, who does this non-professional think he is, essentially teaching people exercise? And I was like, it's simultaneously superior and inferiority complex. We feel as a profession, if we were a personification, if PT was a person, they would feel inferior to the rest of the medical community, and we're trying to work our way up the ladder. At the same time, we're doing the same thing to other non-professionals. You have no idea what Sean's experience is, or his insight, or his results, or if he understands what he's selling. My guess is he does. But to listen to the comments, the funny part was, at this moment, the original person who posted this, I think, was going for a dog pile. They were waiting for the rest of the people to sort of glom on and say, yeah, who's this guy think he is? Most people didn't. Most people are like, yeah, that looks like a great course. Like, I don't understand what you're looking at. So maybe it is a turning point, because I feel like 10 years ago, the comment section of this would have been much different.
I asked you about him. Didn't you say he was a physical therapist?
Yeah. What's that?
Isn't he a licensed physical therapist, that guy?
Dan's telling me he's a chiropractor and a strength coach. I've talked to him,
okay.
And I've seen his stuff. Super smart guy, knows what he's doing. Like, if I were going to take his course, would I look into it? Absolutely. I would love to see his qualifications, right? His education. That's important. I'd also love to see like what other people thought of the course. That might be a little more. Like, let's say he had none. Let's say he wasn't a chiropractor or a strength coach. He was self-taught. As Tony has said before, and I now agree, licensure protects who? The public, right? That's what it's supposed to do, right? Supposed to do. I don't know. Like, licensure creates licenses, which creates revenue for a board. I'm not saying we do away with licensure. I'm saying understand what it's designed to do.
And understand what it was originally designed to do compared to what it actually does today. You know, right. The dial-up phone, like the turnstile kind of phone, was originally designed for something, but it's not effective today. There's lots of things that were started decades ago, hundreds of years ago, that don't apply today. I go back to, I don't believe it's a consumer protection kind of vehicle anymore. I don't believe it protects us. We can't even get other, lifetime from using DPT on their marketing. Like, what kind of protection does it actually offer? Maybe if you're going to target somebody for doing something and you're going to get the board behind you, okay, maybe you take away a PT's license if they're doing unethical things. But even within that, they don't care. They're going to open up the next day doing something that they don't call physical therapy. I just think that it's a lot of effort, a lot of political capital just going to waste. And seeing these guys create these programs, we should be embracing this. We should be looking at how we work together. The skills of a therapist are not required to count reps and sets. The skills of a therapist are required to do the evaluation, take the history together into a plan. Then a monkey can carry out. The monkey doesn't need to know why we're doing this. We just need to know what to do.
Here's the question. Are you mad Sean's doing it? Or are you mad he's doing it and you're not? Or are you mad he's doing it and it looks better than you? Like, what are you actually sensitive about, right? Because now we get into all of the different artificial intelligence models. Everything Tony just said, and we had a conversation with this about a month ago. If an AI model can listen to a history, synthesize it, and create the plan of care, where does your value lie? If you're just saying, well, my licensure, I wouldn't want to be on that boat. That boat's going to sink. So what is it that anybody can create I could just buy an espresso machine and set up shop at a rest stop and just make coffee, right? Jimmy's Coffee. Except that's not what people are buying. It's not. I'm very sorry. It's not.
Real quick, LegalZoom, when you think about the attorneys, you think about like who is more positioned to protect their licensure, protect their profession. But even within that, like LegalZoom came out, they figured out a way to democratize simple stuff, making a last will and testament, making an LLC, doing these things that really you don't need an attorney to do anymore. Right. I think we need the LegalZoom, which maybe it's Sword, maybe it's Hinge, but we need a legal Zoom in therapy to suck up all of the low hanging fruit, the easy stuff, the stuff that you don't need a therapist knowledge base to really deliver. And then let the therapist focus on the complicated stuff, the stuff that does need human.
All of the post-surgical orthopedic protocols are already online. There's PDFs from every hospital. Most surgeons have them publicly. It even says what exercises sometimes and how many reps and sets and all that. And people still go to physical therapy. It's always going to happen. I mean, maybe there's a tool like that helps some of this, but when someone's in pain or they want reassurance or they want a second set of eyes on their injury, or especially post-surgical, they're going to want video physical therapy, maybe, or in-person physical therapy, most likely.
Listen, we gave Frodo the map and we said, go throw the ring in Mordor, but he still put together the fellowship, right? They were still going to walk. Why? Because each of them had different experiences to get through that actual maze, because you don't know what's coming. That's the thing, right? There's your thing. I am your guide. You're the hero. We keep trying to position ourselves as the hero, and people leave, and we're not, and we're shocked by this. I am not shocked. I don't think you're shocked either.
All right, let's think about parting shots. I'm going to go first. Taking Dave's example in the top of the show, I really think, every mistake is an opportunity. We learn from these. If we don't have these problems, we're never going to improve. I think the way Dave handled it is commendable. It is outstanding. The most valuable thing in that is the idea that once you have something like this, you develop a system, a policy, a procedure that prevents it from ever happening again. That's the value in this opportunity.
Dave, what do you got?
The therapist is still with us, but we're always hiring. If you want to come play ball, in the big leagues, we're always hiring. Send us your resume, Concierge Pain Relief, Midtown Manhattan office, as well as home visits. And only if you've watched this whole thing, then you know what we're all about. So if that sounds like you, reach out. We're always hiring.
Apollo 13 would have been a really, really boring movie, and probably wouldn't have been a movie unless there was a problem that they had to identify that was really scary that they overcame. The whole movie's about problems and overcome. Most movies are about the problem.
Every show and movie has the hero's journey and some climax, some challenge they have to overcome. Every single show and movie, yeah.
And the bigger distance between how low the low is and how high the high is, that's the tension. That's the thing. Listen, I know it sucks when you're at the low. It does. How are you going to crawl out of that? That's your moment. They say, failure is not an option. Sure it is. It's an option every damn time. You're just not going to choose it. And that's when the main guy with the vest in Apollo 13 says, I think this is going to be our finest hour. That's the way to look at it. Stuff is going sideways in space. I think this is going to be our finest hour. Look at it that way. 6 months from now, Dave, you'll look back and say, this is our finest hour. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Summer's coming to an end. Get out there and get outside.